Good afternoon and welcome to the challenge version of the National We the People finals. We commend you on taking part in this forum. And my name is Gus Chin. I'm a municipal judge for the cities of Holiday and Cottonwood Heights in the state of Utah. Let me just in advance tell you that because of the size of your group, it may be that we as judges may cut you off so that our colleagues can also provide questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Brit Krelmeyer. I'm originally born and raised from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a We the People alum, so I know what it feels to be sitting exactly where you are, except for not digitally, right? I am now a practicing attorney in Boise, Idaho, and it's such a pleasure to be with all of you today.
And I am Les Volpe. I'm an attorney from Denver, Colorado.
Would you introduce yourselves, please? Thank you.
Hello, we are Unit 5 and we study the Bill of Rights. I'm Anna.
Hello, I'm Emma.
Hi, I'm Kate.
Hi, I'm Alice.
Good morning, my name is Rohan.
Hello, I'm Lark, and thank you for being here this morning.
The question for this unit reads as follows. Richard Posner wrote that the American public worries more about invasions of privacy than about summary proceedings against suspected terrorists, curtailments of the freedom of speech of the law-abiding, or the right of the media to publish government secrets. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Why or why not? To what extent, if any, is privacy in jeopardy today? What protection, if any, do people have from privacy violations by governments or businesses? You may begin, please.
Facial recognition, DNA databases, smart cities with cameras everywhere, COVID-19 contact tracing. Since the dawn of the 21st century, there's been an explosion of new technologies that increase safety and efficiency, but at a tremendous cost to personal privacy.
From Fourth Amendment protections to the right to privacy created in Griswold v. Connecticut, to the reasonable expectation of privacy standard articulated in Cate v. the American public expects its privacy rights to be honored. Judge Posner is correct that Americans worry more about individual personal privacy than about general societal civil liberty concerns, like proceedings against terrorists, free speech limits, and publication of government secrets.
The Pew Research Center reports that 88% of Americans do not want to be surveilled. Americans are concerned about their data, and they have filed lawsuits to prove it, like suing Google for its Street View project. We do care about other civil liberty violations, but whereas outrage about curtailment of speech or summary proceedings against terrorists come and go depending on what's in the news cycle, privacy is a constant worry.
The American public may worry about privacy, but it values ease and efficiency more. Devices like Alexa give companies access to over 20 million American homes. Almost everyone uses Google despite knowing that it collects their data. Few Americans encrypt their emails, and on social media, people share freely many personal details. If we value privacy, we have a funny way of showing it.
Privacy is in great jeopardy today from the government, the private sector, and individual bad actors. Ubiquitous surveillance cameras and active facial recognition technology allows law enforcement to track us at the touch of a button. Devices like the Ring doorbell share footage with law enforcement without users' knowledge.
Facebook inadvertently allowed the collection of 87 million user profiles by the data mining firm Cambridge Analytica. Apple and Google are trying to track the spread of coronavirus through location data. Popular home DNA kits release health data to both the government and the private sector. And then there's hacking by foreign governments.
Privacy is in danger because technology moves faster than legislatures and courts. The USA Rights Act, which was introduced with bipartisan support to protect consumers' privacy, has been stuck in committee since 2017. Riley v. California, the first Supreme Court case to address cell phone privacy, took 5 years to make its way to the court. By the time legislatures and courts address privacy issues, the technology has already evolved.
The Fourth Amendment is people's primary protection from privacy violations by the government. In Cate v. US, the Supreme Court held it applies whenever you have a reasonable expectation of privacy against government intrusion. The court has expanded the Fourth Amendment to new technologies, protecting homes from thermal imaging in Kylo v. US, vehicles from warrantless GPS tracking in Jones v. US, and cell phones from certain types of searches in Carpenter v. US.
In 1965, the Supreme Court established the right to privacy in Griswold v. Connecticut. This right protects intimate decision-making and personal autonomy. The First Amendment protects privacy in the form of anonymity, and the Third, Fifth, and Ninth Amendments all have privacy implications.
Legislatures can protect people against invasions of privacy by businesses. Congress has protected financial privacy and the Right to Financial Privacy Act and patient information in the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. 148 privacy bills were introduced in state legislatures in 2019, like Illinois' biometric data law.
The press can guard privacy. The New York Times reporting on Clearview AI's facial recognition technology caused social media companies and state governments to change their protocols. When USA Today reported about the NSA database, people began suing the government.
As technology evolves, courts, legislatures, and consumers all face challenging choices. The future of privacy in America rests on those decisions. Thank you. We are ready for your questions.
Thank you. You made mention in terms of reasonable expectation. If security, domestic terrorism, international cyber terrorism is a concern, shouldn't we be willing to sacrifice some privacy? And isn't it unreasonable to have an absolute expectation for security and common good?
I think it is reasonable, but the American public is very wary about giving up some rights because they don't necessarily know when it will end. For instance, after 9/11, the President George W. Bush administration started doing warrantless wiretapping, and that hasn't really stopped until this point, or it went on much longer than they said it would. So Americans are very concerned about giving up some rights because they're afraid of a slippery slope.
I do not think we should have to give up our personal privacy rights in order to protect national security. I think there are other measures that can be taken. Section 702 of the FISA amendments allows the government to listen in on foreign calls, but that section has been used to listen in on domestic calls. And I think that the government should be able to wiretap foreign threats. However, we should not have to give up our own privacy because it is a right of ours.
You guys mentioned a lot of great things in your prepared statement. You mentioned Alexa, businesses having access to 20 million homes. You mentioned hacking by foreign governments. You mentioned our own government listening in on us. What is the biggest threat that Americans face today when it comes to our privacy? Or is it ourselves? Are we making the conscious decision to just consent to putting ourselves out there?
I personally believe that the biggest threat to American privacy currently is the FISA Amendments Act of 2008, which was Congress after the fact approving President Bush's warrantless wiretapping. And I believe that when the FISA Act was originally passed in the 70s, that was the perfect protection against foreign intrusion and foreign terrorism. But following the 2008 Act, then it started infringing on Americans' privacy rights.
I think the greatest threat to our privacy today are these in-home technologies such as Alexa or the Ring doorbell. The founders crafted the Fourth Amendment to keep intruders outside of our house, but now we're freely bringing intruders inside of our house, and I think that's crazy. Technologies like Alexa can take baselines of your voice, so if one day you have more of a raspy voice or you have a cough and Alexa picks that up, they can infer and deduce that you have a cold or some type of sickness. So I believe that technologies like this are super intrusive and a huge breach of our privacy.
I think the biggest threat to privacy today is the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, which creates an easy pathway for companies to share lots of information with the government. Although it was created to help prevent cybersecurity threats, the information that companies share with the government doesn't have to have anything to do with cybersecurity threats, and it just gives companies the ability to hand away a lot of our data.
I think that facial recognition.
Ask a question if you don't mind. Sorry. Les, go ahead.
One of the remedies that you have suggested is that individuals can file suit against either the government or the various private entities that collect information. One of the time-honored traditions of judicial restraint is anyone who brings a suit must prove that whatever he is complaining of had a direct impact on him. And in at least one case, Clapper versus Amnesty International, it was held that unless you can prove that your information was taken, you have no standing to bring the lawsuit. How do we deal with that issue? How do you show that your information was stolen?
I think we can follow EU standards where companies have to expressly state what information they are taking. And then if an individual private person wants to see what information they are taking, they can ask for that information to be sent to them. And then following that information being sent to them, they can decide whether or not they like it if the company has that information.
I think that we should follow the California Consumer Privacy Act, which allows individuals to know exactly what information is being collected about them. And I think that if we have more generally open information about what data is being collected about an individual, then these people will be more easily able to bring civil lawsuits about what data is being collected about them.
So essentially, you're placing the responsibility on the individual. If we choose to participate in this technological forum, as one of your colleagues said, we invite people into the sacrosanct definings of our homes, then how is it that you're going to be seeking added protection? What can you do to get that added protection if you invite them into your homes?
Well, I think you can purposefully only invite safe things into your homes. For example, you can use the server DuckDuckGo rather than Google because they do not collect any of your data. Furthermore, you can take precautions to not share any of your personal data with any devices that you invite into your home, or you can choose to not use things like Alexa or Ring doorbells in the first place.
The issue is we live in the 21st century where it's kind of infeasible to argue that people can just not give their information to any outside force, because the third-party doctrine established in Smith v. Maryland says that any information, may I finish my thought?
Please do.
The third-party doctrine says that any information you give to the third party, the government can access. And I believe that is ludicrous because we all give information to third parties.
Thank you. Please join me in applauding the students on a wonderful job. We'll give you some commentary. Very well done. I appreciate you've covered just about every avenue, case authority, statutory authority, constitutional authority, personal authority from your own standpoint, with your own reasoning as well. Very responsive to our questions. It's clear that you certainly put a lot of effort into this despite being outside of the pure academic setting. I appreciate particularly the commitment you made and the dedication you made in preparing and in providing us good reasoning. Our future is bright because of you. Thank you.
It is always a good thing when the judges are eager to ask you questions. I wish I could have heard all of you answer my question. Obviously, because of time constraints, we can't, because it is very important. I want to know what your brilliant young minds think about how we tackle these important issues, because we are in uncertain times, and you guys know it, we all know it. And I just want to commend all of you for opting in to participate. It is a huge mood lift for me personally. I think we all have kind of felt this like Corona slump, or as I call her, the Rona. She is not fun. She is merciless, man. Like, she is just wearing me out. But seeing you guys has just been inspiring. I love when we're at the national level, you guys have a great energy, and I can even feel it via Zoom, just how passionate you are. And my colleagues know this, but you guys opted in to do this and do all this work and not even getting like a cool trip to DC. So kudos to you. I don't know if I would have had that drive as a senior. I would have just been like pouting and all emo in my room, listening to sad music and being grumpy. So, I mean, hats off, getting dressed, showing up, doing a phenomenal job, being informed. I can't wait to work alongside of you in the workforce. I know that you are going to make huge contributions in whatever field you go in, and continue to quest after all of this knowledge and share it and inspire not just your peers, but I always tell people I can learn as much from you guys as you can from me. So keep it up.
I want to add my gratitude for your obvious hard work. and for your participation in this form of competition rather than going to Washington, D.C. I am impressed with the amount of knowledge you were able to express today. It tells me how hard you have worked. It tells me how hard your teacher has worked. And we must express our thanks to your teacher as well. But what this tells me is that this generation, which is going to have to solve this problem of the invasion of our privacy, you represent the front line of those who will be able to do something about it. You are talking about potential solutions. You're talking about important statutes. You're talking about very important cases. I like the fact you're talking about our private use of information like Ring doorbells and our home security cameras. You didn't mention facial recognition cameras on the street, but that's another example of how we are constantly tracked by so many different entities. That doesn't even count the fact that, you know, our adversaries internationally are watching us just as closely as our own government. And we must find a solution. I am asking your generation to do that. And I know that you, as informed individuals, will lead the charge in that regard. Thank you for your effort and your future participation.